Matthew, Roz from Kroll, and Frederick from WTW. Frederick, I'm going to go off piste a bit. That last comment there from Cleo, what's your reaction to that? There's a company there that isn't quite sure what data it needs from its insurers. Isn't that the role of the brokers to help them with that?
It is, and we do, and particularly at WTW, we pride ourselves in positioning ourselves as risk and analytical brokers. So within our organization, we place significant emphasis on the analytical tools that we have. And I think the conversation today is going to provide further evidence of that.
Yeah, we couldn't have organised it better. Thank you, Cleo, for that, lining that one up. We've got a poll coming up now, and the question is, how important is underinsurance? Now, for those that aren't familiar what underinsurance means, this is basically where a property or another asset is not declared at the full value when it gets insured. Now, if you don't know how that, or haven't got a view on that from a commercial point of view, just think about it from your own point of view about insurance. So the question is, how important is that to you personally? And we've got 33 people, so give a chance just to get a response to that. And I might need to talk you through the answers if you can't see them. So we are looking at that. Somewhat important. A few of you don't care, but it's a major issue for 48% of you. The bars seem to be about out of sync on that. But I think we're seeing that about half of the people in the room either think that's a problem for you or a problem for the organizations you work with or know about, which is a good lead into our discussion. So for those of you who don't know Kroll, there's a wide range of activities they're involved in, but specifically today we're going to be talking about how Kroll has been looking at helping companies assess the valuation of different types of assets, properties, commercial properties, and we're going to be talking a bit about some of you going to be looking at going forward. So there are a number of companies looking at this challenge of underinsurance, or rebuild costs is commonly known as. So important to distinguish what it costs to rebuild a building versus what it costs if you're going to go and buy it. Commercial is harder, and it gets harder the more complicated the facilities you've got or the offering. So what is it about you're doing at Kroll, or maybe what kind of companies you're looking at, that you're starting to see an opportunity to offer this service?
Yeah, good question. So we're really seeing the most potential for companies or clients with large multi-jurisdictional platforms or portfolios, where previously it was cost prohibitive or just unrealistic to go out and perform a valuation for each one of those sites. And that really made it difficult for risk managers and the people in the room to get a handle on their valuations. We're talking about clients with hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of properties that they're responsible for. Take Frederick and WTW team at GB Retail. And this tends to be a mix of commercial and residential properties, a bit more standard build in nature. And in the past, we used to have to structure these large multi-year valuation programs where the cost involved, the effort from the client side, the fee, these are all major deterrents. But now our automated solution looks to cut out all those limitations. And beyond that, we also see potential for large corporate clients to use it as a management platform. They'll have all their information centralized in one place. Down the line, we actually see some future potential for other valuation firms to use it where they don't have capacity, because we really see what we're doing as something that could be the market standard going forward. And beyond that, just from coming to these InsTech events, we've met all these different companies, whether it's big ticket or others where our API can fit right into their existing environment.
Wow, you covered a lot in there. And we chatted to Cleo afterwards about how to bring all her data together in one place. Sounds like you might have some ideas for it. And just so the way you're describing that, previously people would have had a surveyor go out and site, that's expensive. Now you're automating this process. And what is it about what you've got at Kroll then that has enabled you to build this tool when other people have been trying to do this for a while?
So first off, we have the largest fixed asset valuation team in the world, and we do valuations of over £1 trillion worth of insured assets every year. We cover that with over 200 in-house valuers around the globe who are valuing every different type of asset class all day, every day. So valuation is really our bread and butter. But what we've done is just decided to do something smart with all the information and the models that we have. And beyond valuations, luckily at Kroll, there's some other people in the company that are a lot smarter than me, like Roz over here.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Kroll currently provides highly customizable and innovative solutions that enable clients to really identify, assess, and mitigate risk. We have cross-functional teams of development, design, QE, machine learning, and data engineering around the globe, working daily to ensure that our clients have access to most current technology tools out there, especially risk intelligence tools and applications.
And then, Roz, just coming back to sort of specifically then, so Matt talked about the API, but so how are people engaging with this information? So you've got this rich data set of rebuild costs, but from a specific point of view, how do they bring that into their own workflow and their systems?
So we do offer a user interface. So this we have a platform, basically. They can access the platform and get the data there. But we also in process of building an API, a valuation API, where they can get the replacement cost estimation through an API. Also, they can get adequacy assessment and risk flags through that API. So we offer both kind of channels for our services.
Right. And then, Frederick, for you, just a little bit building on our previous discussion, but it'd be helpful just to know what your role is at WTW, and then the kind of questions your clients have been asking for you, and maybe if you can three questions. It's a smart audience. Answer to three questions in one go. A little bit of like the linkage between what you're doing with Kroll and what you're doing with WTW. Did you get all those three questions? What you're doing, where clients are telling you, and then how does it link back into the...
I know I've got grey hair, but I'm trying to get there.
I can't manage three questions at once, so I just was checking.
So my role at WTW is Director of Risk Engagement, and what that means effectively is to work with the clients and act as a generic risk advisor at both strategic and operational level to help them understand and mitigate and address their risks, but also to act as a conduit back into WTW for the vast range of capabilities that we have, analytics being a key segment in all of that. So helping clients resolve problems. I'm particularly excited about working with Kroll because effectively they've brought to the table a solution to a problem that clients have been talking to us for many years. And that is that automated approach to valuations. Our clients are concerned about avoiding surprises, so they don't want a situation where if there's a problem with one of their properties, there's an issue, litigation in terms of paying the claim by insurers. They don't want issues in terms of getting the business interruption values correct. And they want to avoid at all costs excessive and disproportionate rises by insurers in terms of premiums. So that's what they're looking for. Add to that or overlay on that things like accessibility, accessibility to data and being able to look at that data and understand it. Susan was saying earlier about huge swathes of data, but what do you do with it? And I think the platform offers that a solution to that challenge. And really visibility, when you're talking about larger portfolios, visibility over those portfolios in terms of valuations and valuation trends and rates over years. So as I said, we're particularly enthused and excited to be working with Kroll. And I'll stop now, but I was quite struck by the poll earlier when we talked about the importance of underinsurance. So this is purely anecdotal, and I certainly can't and wouldn't go into detail. But one client, a real estate operator, had a claim on a property and found themselves 200% underinsured on the declared value. That hurts. And that's the kind of thing that we, as brokers, as partners, need to ensure that our clients, you guys out there, avoid, and we help you to avoid.
And for those that are maths a bit rusty, so that would mean if the loss was $1 million, they would only have been insured for 250,000. Is that right? When you say 200%?
Or turn that round. Maybe I got the maths wrong, but it cost 3 million, fictitious figure, to rebuild. They were insured for 1 million.
3 million. Okay. We're not going to argue the maths on it, but I think your answer is better than mine. So it's a long time ago, so I did my engineering degree. But so we get the point. There's a big multiplier effect on the actual cost they had to pay out versus what they actually thought they were underinsured for. Good. Well, Roz, just back to you then on the data side. So Matt's mentioned that you've got your 200 or so surveyors that have been going out there in the field I guess over time they're probably going to be fewer because by definition you're saving money. You're also working with third-party data, is that right, to go and access information?
Yes, so we kind of use both combined with our valuation standards. So we have 40 legally approved cost sources that we use, which are third-party providers. And also we leverage over 3,000 site visit data that we have annually. So combine all these together, it creates a great data set for us to work off.
So just make sure I call that 40. So you've got 40 providers.
Yeah. 40.
And if people want to, they think they've got some data that might be useful for you, how do they come to you and say, we've got some data, are you interested in it?
They can just contact us directly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, well, we'll talk a bit more about that later on. And then validation is always a big issue here because, well, it's one thing to have the data, but then how do you make sure that what you're getting, particularly digitally, is actually representative of what's really there on the ground?
Yeah, so we do have multiple stages of validation. We do have an early stage, which we call a data integrity validation procedure. And in this scalable procedure, we check to see whether the input data from the client is actually in expected format and type. We look for any missing data points, gaps, or like duplicates to just make sure of the integrity of the data, right? And then in the valuation stage, we compare each calculated value against ranges and values from Kroll and clients. And if that value falls out of that range, we will just review it, and our experts will review it, and that learning from that review will build back into the system. So this way, the system is always improving, and we make sure that any emerging trend is observed and incorporated into the system.
And so just on that point then, so if, as it does happen, the client might have one version of the information about a building, you might have a different version, and there's lots of reasons why that can happen. What happens then? I mean, maybe it's a question for you, Frederick, then is there a way to go back to the client and say, well, actually, the Kroll data says this is a 10-story building, and your data says it's a 5-story building, and sort of confirm on those sort of ones that have got different viewpoints?
Yeah, we set thresholds to flag this. So the platform works perfectly for huge portfolios, right? So when thousands of data are coming in, there are procedures, scalable procedures to flag these inconsistencies. So when we flag these inconsistencies, we just like bring them up, and then there's an opportunity for us, for our internal team to review it and our client team to review it, and then we can go back to the end user or client and say, like, there's this discrepancy.
Yeah.
Do you want to confirm? Do you want to go ahead?
Great. No, definitely, I'd love to hear more about that. And then Matt, talking about clients, are there some names of companies you can reveal, either in the insurance world or the corporate world, because you're working with both sides of the equation, I guess?
Yeah, we're really excited about the partnership with WTW, of course. That's one of our most recent big wins, and we've got a bunch more in the pipeline. We've got proof of concept set up with major insurers like AXA. On the corporate side, we're working with a couple big name retailers and supermarkets, also a large brewery, and interestingly enough, there's a building construction company that wants to work with us. So there's quite a bit in the pipeline, and like I said earlier, we're also looking at different environments that exist out there that we could connect our API to.
I feel sorry for the surveyor that was working on the brewery account and now been told he's been replaced by a digital assistant. That's going to like spoil his day a bit.
They're good site visits, though. Yeah.
And then, Frederick, for you, so you mentioned this as a problem for your clients. You've now started doing this with work with Kroll. Started to hear from Matt. There's some examples out there. What's been the general feedback from people as you've been talking to them about what Kroll's got to offer?
It's early days. I mean, we're early into the relationship, but we have been talking to a number of clients, and the reaction has been very positive because effectively we're presenting a solution to their problem. We're giving them something which is really easy to sort of see and understand in terms of data. It's accessible. It can deal with large portfolios and present that data in a really easy to understand form so you can see hotspots very quickly. But probably the most important thing is that it's efficient and it's, if I can use the term, value for money. It gives them a cost-effective solution to what they've been trying to do for years, because the danger is otherwise you only carry out valuations in your properties sporadically. What this system does is allow you to carry out the valuation but then to maintain it. so that you sleep at night.
And thank you, because that does actually bring us to our final question. So, Matt, Ros, and who wants to answer this one, but to give somebody in the room a perspective of if they are thinking right now, I want to go and work with Kroll, how should they think about the cost of accessing your data? I know that's very variable, but if there's a way you can sort of pin it down to something that people can relate to and assign a cost to that, or some kind of range of costs.
Yeah, great question. So it really comes into its own when you're dealing with multiple properties. But on a per property basis, we haven't found any solution that can match us in price. For purposes of this event, let's just say the cost of a good meal, unless your idea of a good meal is McDonald's or something, it's a little more than that.
So the cost of a good meal, depending which country you're in, but in London, you would be able to get a Kroll assessment of your buildings, I guess, a certain number of buildings. And then I guess that leads on to the next question, which Ross sort of answered. But for each of you, if people want to learn more, for Frederick, for WTW, how if someone out there is interested, you're either their broker or they're interested in you, maybe even support them as a broker, what's the best way to get hold of you?
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm going to be around after the event, so happy to talk to anybody and explore things a little bit more. But our website already carries details of who to speak to. The service is offered through our property risk engineering practice, which in itself has even further credibility because it's ex-insurance risk engineers who are managing it. All the details are on there.
Great. And Ros, Matt, after people have left the bar and want to come and talk to you, what's the best way to pin you down in your day jobs?
So Ros and I are both quite approachable, and we're joined here today by our fearless leader, Rebecca Fuller, who I have to give a shout out to for not shouting out the entire time that we were up here. And Yaron Harkema here is our head of sales. So come find us after the event, and we'd love to speak to you or maybe set up a meeting at our office in the Shard.
Excellent. Matt, Ros, Frederick, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.